Episode 181. Your Prince Charming isn't interested in you. It's really you. When Amelia recognized Dario's handsome face, she excitedly rushed in front of him and stared into his eyes. But a cold aura surrounded him and made it difficult for her to approach him. From the moment she entered the room, Dario avoided looking directly at her. But Amelia just kept looking at him with eyes full of love and passion. His indifferent attitude towards her made her very unhappy. As the oldest daughter of the Stevens family, she'd always been chased by rich and handsome men. None of them had ever been so indifferent to her. His attitude towards her was very cold, but for some reason, she still liked him. "Tell me, what is your purpose?" Dario's cold voice sounded in the room. Amelia was stunned for a moment. She looked at him in confusion and said, "What do you mean? What is your purpose?" Dario didn't like to talk nonsense. He glanced at her indifferently, and his dark eyes suddenly became very deep as he said, "You took that photo, right?" Although he only glanced at Amelia out of the corners of his eyes, his gaze was enough to move her heart. She happily sat opposite him and stared at his face. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. She would never get tired of Dario's handsome face, no matter how long she looked at it. He was much more handsome than all of the celebrities. "I don't understand what you're asking. I've taken a lot of pictures. I don't know which one you're talking about." Amelia looked at him with a smile. Her eyes were full of ambiguity, and they flashed with electricity from time to time. She wanted to flirt with him. However, she was disappointed because Dario wasn't interested in her. His gaze never settled on her for more than 1 second. "The photo you sent yesterday." Dario didn't say much. He told her this purpose very clearly. After all, he didn't want to talk nonsense with her. Amelia's heart sank, and her expression changed drastically. She only just realized that he was referring to the photo that she had taken the day before. Her eyes lit up, and she seemed excited and happy. She said, "You mean that you saw the photo I sent to Jade yesterday?" Dario didn't respond. Since he asked, he must have known. Amelia really hadn't expected him to see the photo. Wouldn't that be better? She had only wanted to scare Jade and make her restrain herself a little. Don't be so arrogant. Otherwise, there would be good looks for her. She hadn't expected it to achieve a better result. She thought that Jade must have had a very perfect night. As she thought to herself, Amelia appeared very pleased. Taking that photo had been the best choice for her. Dario didn't answer her question. Instead, he said impatiently, "Answer my question. What are you trying to do?" Amelia had a faint smile on her face. When he came to find her, she started to feel jealous. In other words, he came to find her because of Jade. "Who exactly are you? If you want to know the answer, I won't tell you for nothing." Amelia looked deep into his eyes. She still didn't know his name. Since she liked him, she wanted to know his name. This was her chance. She wanted to find out more. This was the first time she'd been alone with him. The more she looked at him, the more handsome and intoxicating he appeared. She was getting more and more excited. "You don't have the right to know this," Dario said indifferently. His face didn't show any expression. Amelia kept looking deeply into Dario's eyes, but she felt that she'd never know what he was thinking or what he was going to do in the next second. Amelia's expression immediately turned ugly. In a deliberately coquettish tone, she said, "If you don't tell me who you are, I won't answer your questions. As for those photos, I still have a few backups." When she finished speaking, she carefully observed his expression. While she talked about the photos, his expression was like an iceberg. But then she noticed that it changed a little. Although it was only a flash, Amelia still noticed it. A look of success instantly flashed across her eyes. She now knew that the picture was his goal. She thought that since she knew his weakness, he should be easy to deal with. "Dario." Dario coldly spat out his name. Amelia's eyes lit up when she heard him say his name. She was very excited. Hearing his name made her even happier than if she had seen her idol. After such a long time, she finally knew his name. In the future, she would know more. "Dario, Dario, I finally know your name. Can I call you by your name from now on?" Amelia hadn't expected him to give away his name so easily. If she had known earlier, she would have mentioned the photo right from the start. Amelia excitedly called out several people's names. Her smile became increasingly brilliant. She was extremely happy. She not only thought he was handsome, but she also liked his name. It was almost becoming obsessed. But in the next second, Dario broke the smile on her face with his words. You are not worthy of calling me by my name. Even your grandfather has to call me CEO Foster when he sees me. As Dario spoke, his voice was very cold. Sitting opposite him, Amelia felt his coldness. When she heard what he said, her expression immediately turned cold. In the face of his arrogance, she was at a loss. If anyone else had said such words to her, she would definitely have thought they were boasting. But the man in front of her seemed to be born with the aura of a king. She swallowed her saliva. She said to herself, what did he mean by that? When her grandfather saw him, he had to call him CEO Foster, meaning that she had to call him CEO Foster too? That made her seem like his subordinate, but she told herself to forget it. If he wanted her to call him CEO Foster, she would call him that. She felt that one day she'd openly call out his name in front of him. CEO Foster, aren't you afraid that if you treat me like this, I won't answer your question? As soon as her beautiful voice faded, she felt a horrifying aura. She suddenly raised her head and found that Dario was looking down at her with the sharp gaze of a wolf. A single look from him was enough to fill anyone with terror. Amelia instantly felt a chill run down her back. She took a deep breath. Her intuition told her that Dario wasn't someone she wanted to provoke, but she had already provoked him. Episode 182. Don't get carried away. I don't want to ask the same question twice. As Dario spoke, a trace of annoyance flashed in his eyes. The situation was taking longer to deal with than he had expected. He no longer had any patience. Don't look at me like that. You won't scare me by giving me that look. Let me tell you, my grandfather is very powerful. I'm a member of the Stevens family. There's no one in Washington who dares to touch me. Amelia gave Dario an angry look as she spoke. What is there to be afraid of? She thought to herself. The Stevens family was also powerful. How could a random person come and bully her? Wouldn't that be too embarrassing? Dario smiled slightly. A trace of ridicule flashed across his eyes. He said casually, If I wanted you to die, even your grandfather wouldn't be able to save you. I advise you to answer my questions. His words were very straightforward. At the same time, he was hinting that his power was much greater than that of the Stevens family. Ruining the Stevens family would be a piece of cake for Dario. He wasn't at all worried about Amelia. Normally, he wouldn't reveal his identity, but he had done so this time for Jade. Amelia was shocked by his words. No one had ever spoken so confidently in front of her. She looked at Dario's intimidating eyes with some fear. After weighing the pros and cons, she finally decided to tell the truth. After all, she still didn't know who this person was, and she didn't know if his words were true or not. If he was telling the truth, then she was only causing a lot of trouble for herself. And what did it matter if she told him anyway? Wouldn't it be better to tell him what his wife was doing behind his back? Amelia said to herself, Jade, you're dead for sure. Okay, let me tell you, the reason I took that photo was to create a scandal for Jade. I didn't want her to be such a famous advertising actress. I wanted everyone to see their favorite actress hooking up with other men. Amelia raised her eyebrows and emphasized the words, hooking up. What kind of woman was his wife? As she spoke, her beautiful eyes were full of jealousy. Why had Jade become a famous advertising actress? Why had she become Dario's wife? Delete it. He simply spat out these two words from his thin lips and then narrowed his eyes, which were full of danger. At first, Amelia didn't know what he was talking about, but then she realized that he was talking about the photos. Why I took that photo? I can send it to whoever I want. I think that many newspapers are interested in it. Amelia narrowed her eyes. There was a trace of a threat in her words. Jade was a hot-blooded newcomer, and any scandal at this time wouldn't be easy to clean up and wash up again. As Amelia spoke, she slowly moved towards Dario. She even looked at him with an ambiguous gaze and smiled very seductively. As she moved closer to Dario's side, she pouted her red lips and revealed a sweet smile as if she wanted to lure and entice him on purpose. However, since it's you, CEO Foster, who's asking, we can discuss it. As long as you agree to one of my conditions, you can ask me to do anything you want. Amelia sat beside Dario. She moved her butt closer bit by bit and even deliberately revealed her cleavage. She was very confident in her figure. But she hadn't expected how Dario would react. Dario was like a monk, and he didn't even care to look at her. Just as Amelia was about to reach out her hand and touch his arm, Dario suddenly stood up and looked at her in a condescending manner. He was clearly trying to avoid her. Amelia immediately felt awkward and embarrassed, but she still raised her head and looked at him with a coquettish expression. "Speak, what do you want?" Dario said emotionlessly. Amelia was bold enough to negotiate with him. She raised her eyebrows and proudly looked up at him. She thought that he must be afraid that these photos would cause trouble for Jade. That was why he sent people to look for her. Amelia hadn't expected that he would actually care that much about Jade. Thinking of this made her especially unhappy. "Actually, I don't want anything. I just want you." Amelia gently raised the corner of her lips and revealed an exceptionally delicate and beautiful smile. If any other man had been in Dario's place, he probably wouldn't have been able to handle it. But it just so happened that she was dealing with Dario, who only cared for Jade. Amelia stretched out her slender fingers and lightly touched his chest. She even extended her index finger and gently touched his throat. It was clear that Amelia knew what she wanted to do. Seeing that Dario didn't react, she became increasingly impudent. She wanted to lean on him with her entire body. She just wanted to be intoxicated. As she leaned into his arms, she didn't expect that Dario would turn around and throw her into the air. She almost fell to the ground. It was extremely awkward. After Amelia stabilized herself, she looked at him angrily and warned him, "As long as I get you, I will promise you to delete all the photos. Otherwise, Jade won't be a top advertising actress for long." "Do you think you have the right to negotiate with me?" Dario asked calmly. His eyes were full of disdain. He didn't care if such a woman came to him on her own accord. Faced with Dario's indifferent reaction, Amelia didn't know what to do. She couldn't figure him out. Did he care about the photos or not, or was he just bluffing? Amelia thought for a while and then laughed lightly. She felt that he must be bluffing and decisively said, "Are these photos not enough for you, CEO Foster? If you're afraid that I'll post them, why would you especially send someone to pick me up? You brought me here, didn't you? Also, you and Jade haven't known each other for long. There might be a lot of things that you don't know about her. She was with my brother for 5 years. 5 years. Even if I delete the photos, I still know a lot of her secrets. Her mother cheated Jade's father for his money and ran away. Her mother left Jade all alone, CEO Foster. Tell me, is this news or those photos more explosive? The entertainment industry is often like this. If your family life wasn't proper, it's very easy for them to look at themselves." Dario didn't know anything about Jade's childhood or her parents. It seemed to him that she wasn't lying. Episode 183. I Can Make You Famous. "Do you think you'll have a chance to spread that news?" Dario's handsome face became very cold and hard. There was a trace of emotion in his eyes that was hard to understand. He only moved his fingers slightly and cracked his knuckles. The sound was extremely horrifying. "I'll have a chance to spread it unless you stop me. I've never seen anyone treat her so well. I've been jealous for a long time." "Do you think I wouldn't dare?" Dario's words made her heart skip a beat. What did he mean? Could it be that he really wanted to kill her? Dario approached her step by step. There was a trace of hostility in his eyes, and his aura was very powerful. It was as if he'd been born with the aura of a king. One look and one simple sentence from Dario could fill anyone with fear. Amelia started to feel fear in her heart. He didn't do anything, but she couldn't help but retreat. "What do you want? Don't mess around." Dario approached her step by step and finally forced her to the wall. There was no way to escape. He slowly raised his hand. Amelia was so scared that she immediately closed her eyes and screamed, "Ah, help!" Dario looked at her and frowned with disdain. He said, "What? Do I look like a murderer? Delete the photo and keep it a secret forever. I can make you famous in no time." Amelia suddenly opened her eyes. She was full of surprise and couldn't believe what she had just heard. Her heart was still pounding in her chest. She suddenly went from being full of fear to feeling joy and disbelief. "What did you say? Are you telling the truth? I want to be famous." At that moment, in her heart, she felt that this man had become even more incredible than before. He actually knew what she wanted. She, who only played minor characters, was jealous of Jade's fire. But she had been a model for so many years. She had to rely on her grandfather just to get commercials, which always held her back. She had always wanted to not rely on the Stevens family reputation. She wanted to make a name for herself and gain a foothold in the entertainment industry with her abilities alone. She didn't expect Dario to actually say that he was willing to help her. Can you do that? After thinking for a while, Amelia looked at him with distrust. Could he do what even her grandfather couldn't do? He seemed so young. Was he really that capable? Dario's expression and attitude were very indifferent. He said, "It comes down to whether you have acting ability or not. Don't try if you don't want to, but don't say that I won't give you a chance. In Washington, I have a number of ways to make you lose your reputation." When he finished, Amelia felt that he was unbelievably cool. But she didn't like the last sentence. The aura of a king radiated from his body. She was deeply attracted to him. "I believe you." Amelia looked at him excitedly. She believed in his ability to do what he said. However, when she thought that such a powerful man had actually become Jade's husband, she was so angry that she went crazy. She quickly thought of something and then said, "I have another question to ask you about Jade. She became an advertising actress overnight and even took on a big advertisement. And she became the female lead in a major film. Did you make all of this possible for her?" Amelia didn't believe that Jade was capable enough by herself, but she hadn't expected the answer that Dario gave her. "That was obtained by her own ability. It has nothing to do with me." Dario glanced at her lightly. There was a trace of contempt in his eyes. It seemed that he wanted to tell Amelia that Jade had reached her current position without his help. He only added fuel to the fire behind her back. Amelia became increasingly angry. "I don't believe it. There's no way she could have done it all on her own." Amelia didn't believe his words at all. How could Jade rely on her own ability? "Right now, you only need to do one thing. Delete the photos." Dario wasn't interested in answering her question and didn't want to talk anymore. Amelia saw that he didn't want to talk to her anymore. She knew that it would be hard to see him again after their talk was over. She smiled and moved closer to his side. Suddenly, she said regretfully, "Speaking of Jade, she almost became my sister-in-law. CEO Foster, maybe you didn't know that she was with my brother for 5 years? They broke up, but 5 years of love. You can't just break that, can you? When she loved my brother, she loved him so much that she almost died. I believe that you saw the pictures I took. That day, my brother came to pick me up. I didn't expect to see Jade. She took the initiative to pester him." Amelia wanted to continue, but Dario interrupted her with a stern voice. "I'm not interested to know. Delete it immediately." Amelia took out her phone, but she didn't give up. She deliberately opened the photos in front of Dario to show him. She wanted to anger him, but Dario just acted as if he didn't see it. He didn't react at all. It was as if he didn't believe the contents of the photos. She couldn't help but feel angry. "CEO Foster, do you really not want to know about my brother and Jade? As his elder sister, I know all about it." Before Amelia could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Dario's cold voice. "Don't make me say it a second time." Before she could react, she felt a dangerous aura approaching her. Dario thought that she was deleting them very slowly, so he took her phone and deleted all the photos himself. Not a single one was left. He even deleted her own photos. After deleting them, Dario threw the phone back to her coldly and ordered her to leave. "Get out." Amelia tightly clenched her teeth. She thought that he would have wanted to know about Bruce and Jade. She was even more angered by the fact that his attitude toward her had been extremely cold from the beginning until the end. Moreover, he didn't even look at her at all. She was the young Miss Stevens, and she had lowered her status to get close to him. He didn't even look at her. Amelia felt that she had taken a deep blow. Okay, I'll go. I hope you can keep your promise, CEO Foster. Amelia tidied her clothes and walked out with red eyes. As soon as she opened the door, she seemed to have thought of something. She was puzzled and turned back. She looked at Dario strangely and asked, "But, CEO Foster, I just thought of something. If Jade accidentally finds out about our meeting, I wonder what she will think." Episode 184. It's a big deal to cook for your wife. At that moment, Dario was already leisurely sitting on the sofa, enjoying a glass of wine. He raised his glass in a way that was elegant and charming. Amelia stood at the door and looked at him for a long time, but he didn't seem to want to reason with her. He would rather look at the wine on the table than look at her. Amelia saw that he didn't want to talk to her, so she didn't stay any longer. She flung the door open and left with an unhappy look on her face. "Hey, you're out, but you're so calm. CEO Foster's ability to torture people seems to have regressed. Shouldn't she be crying?" Amelia had just walked out when she heard David's mocking voice. She was so angry that she stomped her feet. She said to herself, "So, these guys were just waiting at the door to watch me make a fool of myself." From David's tone, it seemed to her that he was certain that she would be defeated by Dario. Dario didn't care about her at all. When Amelia thought of how Dario used to look at Jade with such a gentle gaze, she was extremely angry. Amelia angrily scolded. "What are you looking at? Disgusting." She then took back her sunglasses and left. When she left, David still stood there and smiled. "Hey, Lucas, did you see that? Her butt is twisting. It's too sexy. She even put on her sunglasses as though she was some big star. It's so funny. That Miss Stevens is too funny. She's so angry." As he spoke, he imitated Amelia. I hate it." Lucas looked at him like he was an idiot. "Boring," Lucas said as he looked at him with disdain. After speaking, he pushed the door open and went in. I came to play with you because I was bored. What have you been doing recently? You didn't even take me to play." David also went in. As soon as he went in, he naturally sat in front of Dario. He looked at him and was ready to gossip. Hey, CEO Foster? That girl just now was really sexy. She even twisted and turned when she walked. How was it, President? Did she flirt with you?" Before Dario could finish his sentence, he felt a sharp aura assaulting him. He was so scared that he didn't say another word. "Have you found out who that person is?" Dario asked in a deep voice while he glanced at Lucas. "Not yet. That person is very secretive. He must at least be as powerful as you, CEO Foster. He's also more low-key than you. I'm afraid it will take some time to pick up on his clues." Dario's face twitched. He didn't say anything. David patted Lucas's shoulder and said, "Hey, Lucas, what are you talking about? You didn't find out because you weren't able to? Is there anyone in this world who is more powerful than you, CEO Foster?" Lucas glanced at David coldly and spat out 3 words. "You ass kisser." "Hey, Lucas, do you want to fight? Do you think I'm afraid of you? All right, stop arguing." The two of them immediately shut up. David was Lucas's friend, but he was still afraid of him. "Although we haven't found out about that person yet, there's still one thing that I think you'll be interested in, CEO Foster," Lucas said seriously. "What is it?" Lucas didn't hesitate. He quickly said, "The girl you were looking for 5 years ago? She has a clue." Dario's eyes turned serious when he heard him talk about the girl from 5 years ago. His expression became unusual, and his hands became tensed. "Are you sure it's her?" "I'm sure. The person you're looking for isn't in Washington. No wonder she hasn't come down for such a long time. It turns out that she's always lived in Boston. Instead of going to Boston by yourself, it would be better for me to bring her here." Lucas's expression was very serious as he spoke. He thought that Dario would be happy after hearing this news. After all, it had been 5 years, and he still hadn't given up on looking for that person. Lucas thought that this person must be very important to him. But when he told Dario the whereabouts of the girl, Dario seemed to be a little absent-minded. It seemed that he didn't care at all about what Lucas said. He lowered his head and took out his phone. His expression became a little flustered. It's almost 11 o'clock. Damn it. It was all the woman's fault. She had wasted so much of his time. When he finished speaking, Dario took the car keys directly from Lucas's hands and left. He left without saying another word to them. David stood there with a gloomy expression on his face. He was wondering why Dario had even come there that day. Where is he going? Is there an emergency meeting? David thought for a moment. He had never seen Dario so anxious before. He was really curious about what could make him so anxious. Dario didn't get that anxious even when handling business deals involving tens of millions of dollars. Lucas looked at the time with a blank expression and said indifferently, It's more important than an emergency meeting. What? David looked at him curiously. He has to make lunch for Miss Winslet. What? Cook? Lunch? Did I hear wrong? David looked at him in surprise. His mouth was hanging wide open. After a while, he came back to his senses, but he kept murmuring to himself, Wow, this Jade, she is too scary. How does she do it? She actually treated her sex as cold. The tall and mighty Dario had to be home to cook on time? This is simply unbelievable. What kind of magic does this Jade have? His face was full of admiration for Jade. Lucas's poker face hadn't changed for a long time, yet his expression revealed a trace of worry. He was wondering what would happen if the girl from 5 years ago and Jade happened to show up at the same time. Since Jade had received the news that she didn't need to go that morning, she'd been lying in bed at home for the whole day. Her mind was a mess, and she couldn't even read the script. She even wanted to leave, so she started packing her things. But after cleaning up for a long time, she finally realized that all of the things in their home had been bought by Dario. If she really wanted to leave, she couldn't take with her the things he had bought. She leaned against the bed and stared blankly at the dazzling ring on her hand. She said to herself, If you want to leave, you have to return this to him. When she thought of this, she felt a stabbing pain in her heart. She was still a little reluctant to part with him. She looked at the time. In the blink of an eye, it was already noon. She didn't have much appetite that day, but when she thought about filming the advertisement that afternoon, she was afraid that she wouldn't have enough energy. She decided to make something. But just as she was about to enter the kitchen, she saw Dario come back with a pile of vegetables. And he seemed to be in a hurry, as if there were no time to lose. She noticed that there was sweat on his forehead, but his expression was still as calm as usual. Episode 185. I have evidence. Mr. Foster, don't you have work to do? She thought that he wouldn't be back for a day or so after what had happened the day before. She certainly hadn't expected him to come back at lunchtime. What did you call me? Dario pursed his lips and stared at her with his dark eyes. Jade lowered her head and tried to call him by his name, but she found that she couldn't. She didn't know what Miss Monica would call him. Jade thought that she must also call him Dario very intimately. If that was the case, she didn't want to call him that. I told you not to come into the kitchen. Have you thought about it 7 times in one night? After Dario put down the fresh ingredients, he gently pushed Jade out. Seeing Dario like this, Jade really couldn't figure him out, much less understand what he was thinking. Could he really not tell that she was angry? Did he not know her at all? How could he still be in the mood to joke with her? Let's see what we're going to eat for lunch. Dario took out the bag of groceries and let Jade choose for herself. When Jade saw the ingredients, her heart almost melted. She liked most of them. Why? Why did he treat her so well? Why did he give her a gentle push when she was leaving the kitchen? He was too despicable. She couldn't allow herself to be deceived by his gentle appearance. Mr. Foster. Jade stood at the kitchen door and looked hesitantly at Dario. She had just shouted, Mr. Foster, when she felt a sharp aura. Seeing his cautious eyes, Jade immediately changed her words. Dario, I don't know what's going on with that photo. Anyway, it's not what you think. Although she had decided to leave, she felt that she still had to clearly explain the photo. She didn't want him to misunderstand her. Then what is it? Dario put down the vegetables in his hands and walked toward her and looked at her closely. It was as if he was trying to see through her. It's nothing, so what? Aren't you the same? Jade lowered her head and spoke in a soft voice. But somehow, Dario still heard her. What did you say? What's the same? Dario's eyes became sharper. He really wanted to reach out and gently stroke Jade's face, but she dodged his hand. Jade turned her head and deliberately looked away, avoiding his eyes. The complex emotions in her heart made her feel extremely uncomfortable. When she thought about Dario and Miss Monica and how intimate he was with her, she didn't want him to touch her. Nothing. It's just that you did something. You know what I'm talking about, Jade said coldly with a straight face. Is that so? What did I do? How come I don't know? Or are you talking about what I did outside? Didn't I tell you? Dario narrowed his eyes and forcefully held her in his arms. He even forced her to look at him. His actions were very domineering. Jade was a little restless as she twisted her body, wanting to break free from his embrace. However, the more she struggled, the harder he hugged her. Knowing that she couldn't resist, she gave up on struggling. You know in your heart what you did, but you still try to hide it? When Dario heard Jade's firm words and saw that her eyes were full of distrust, his dark eyes filled with anger, but he tried not to show it. You mean you suspect me of something? Dario stared into her eyes, and the anger in his heart couldn't help but rise. Dario thought that she'd been throwing an unnecessary tantrum for several days, and now she was accusing him of doing something wrong. Did she not believe him? Jade noticed that he was angry. She felt a little uncomfortable and hesitant. She really wanted to believe him, and she wondered if the whole thing was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was like the picture of her and Bruce. But they seemed to be especially intimate from the angle that Jade saw them, and that wasn't the first time they had met. If it was just a misunderstanding, why had they met so many times? She had seen Dario and Miss Monica together twice already, and she didn't know how many other times there might have been. Moreover, she'd been away for half a month. She had no idea what Dario did during that time. Jade didn't understand. If they really had nothing to do with each other, why would they meet so frequently? Furthermore, Miss Monica smiled so much when she was with him. Dario seemed to be very good to Miss Monica, and he even went to see her personally. Although he often personally drove Jade also, knowing that he drove Miss Monica in the same car made Jade especially uncomfortable. She was very conflicted and didn't know whether she should believe him or not. Jade looked up in anger and sighed deeply. She wanted to say something but didn't know what to say. Did she really want to shed all pretenses of cordiality? Was she really going to make the scene ugly? Dario looked at her delicate lips as they opened and closed. He could tell that she wanted to say something but wasn't saying it out loud. This made him really want to know what was on her mind. He didn't like that she kept things hidden in her heart and didn't tell him what she was thinking. Just say what you want to say. I want to know all of your emotions. Dario reached out his wide palm and gently pinched her delicate chin. I don't know how to tell you. Don't you know what you've done? Do you want me to give you evidence? Jade saw that he didn't dare to admit it. There was a trace of anger in her clear eyes. Evidence? What evidence? Show it to me. A trace of surprise flashed across Dario's eyes. He looked at her in confusion. Good. Since you want to tear your face off, I'll just take out the evidence. I'll see what else you have to say when the time comes. The more Jade thought about it, the angrier she became. It seemed that he really thought that he could hide it from her. That made her especially angry. What do you want me to say? Did he want to shed all pretenses of cordiality? He only wanted to tear off her clothes. If you don't want people to find out, then don't do it in the first place, Jade said seriously. Dario didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Jade was the first person who could anger him to death. Then tell me what I did. Now he knew that his wife was throwing a tantrum, but he didn't know exactly what it was about. Since she said she had evidence, he wanted to take a good look at it. It seemed to him that his wife had changed her profession to become a detective. Episode 186. His True Colors. I've seen your true colors. You bastard. Just you wait. Jade ran back to her room without saying anything else. She took out her phone and called Violet as fast as she could. But Violet didn't pick up. Jade called a few times, but still Violet didn't pick up. The more she called, the angrier she got. Jade couldn't help but curse. What the hell is this damn Violet doing? Why is she still not picking up the phone? Just when I need her? She isn't there. Dario stood at the door watching her like he was watching a good show. Jade glared at him angrily. She was becoming a little embarrassed. She was about to continue dialing when Dario walked forward with a smile and took her phone, putting it in his pocket. Give it back to me. Jade angrily put her hands on her hips and looked at him. She was both angry and embarrassed. When he saw her expression, Dario thought that she was really cute. He couldn't help but go up and touch her nose. He said gently, Don't get so worked up. This so-called evidence you speak of, I'll look at it later. My great detective, please sit down and rest. I'll go cook lunch. Listening to his gentle words and seeing him working for her in the kitchen, Jade began to struggle again in her heart. She felt she was about to go crazy. Why did he especially rush back to cook for her? Why did he treat her so well? It was too much for her. She thought to herself that he was simply a manipulator who specialized in tricking women like her. But then she thought that she should wait until she got a hold of the evidence. Then she would see what he had to say. She wanted to reveal his true colors. She wanted to let him know that he was a hypocrite. He wanted her to rest, but she didn't want to. She just stood at the kitchen door. As she watched him carefully cook for her, an idea suddenly flashed through her mind. Jealousy instantly rose in her heart, and her delicate little face became tightly knitted together. She felt very unhappy. "Mr. Foster, your cooking is so good. You must have cooked for a lot of women in the past, right?" Jade said this sourly. She didn't know how she came up with this idea. Dario, who was cutting vegetables, stopped for a moment. He raised his head and looked at her with his dark eyes. After a long time, he said in his deep voice, "Not a lot. There have only been 2, and you are the last one." When she heard him say this, Jade felt even more uncomfortable and angry. There have only been 2? Was there a need to tell her so directly? Was he trying to tell her that Miss Monica wasn't the only other woman? Was there another woman? Was he showing off to her? Jade didn't feel good at all. She brooded and brooded. She didn't know why, but she suddenly didn't want to eat the dishes he cooked. "I'll cook for myself. You've already cooked for us so many times." Jade went up to cook, but before she could start, Dario pushed her out with a cold face and locked the kitchen door. Clearly, he didn't want her help. Jade felt increasingly uncomfortable. "Dario, what do you want me to do?" Since she couldn't enter the kitchen, she sat on the sofa in the living room in a daze. She turned on the TV and absent-mindedly pressed buttons on the remote control. Half an hour passed, and she didn't know what she had seen. But Miss Monica appeared on the screen and caught her attention. When she saw Miss Monica, Jade immediately jumped up and stared at the television. She thought that Miss Monica looked perfect and exquisite. Regardless of whether she was acting in an ancient drama or a modern film, she was equally beautiful. No wonder she was famous and loved by so many people. Jade was suddenly jealous. Miss Monica's acting skills were good. She was tall and beautiful, and she was one of the most famous actresses. How could Jade compare with her? "Come and eat," Dario called out to Jade when he finished preparing the food. Jade turned off the TV and sat there in a daze. She'd always liked to eat whatever Dario cooked, but she didn't know what was wrong that day. She had no appetite at all and only wanted to eat plain pasta. Dario gave her a bowl of soup, but she only took it in a daze. After thanking him, she didn't eat it. Her eyes were very empty and her mind was blank. Seeing her like this, Dario couldn't help but feel pain in his heart. He recalled what she had said in her sleep the night before. His expression darkened. "Does being with me make you feel this bad? Don't you want the food I cooked?" Dario stared at the food in her bowl, which hadn't taken a bite of. His eyes were dark and his flawless face turned cold. Jade kept fidgeting with her cutlery. It took her a while to realize that someone was talking to her. Mr. Foster, what did you just say?" Jade looked at him in confusion and wondered what he had said. Dario frowned slightly. He wasn't happy to see her so distracted. "Do you really not want to be with me?" Did she not even want to talk to him? Jade looked into his cold eyes and was about to respond when her phone rang. She saw that it was Violet and she immediately answered. "Hello, Jade? Why did you call me so many times?" Violet was shocked to find that she had missed so many calls. Jade quickly took the phone to the bedroom to answer and said softly, "Hello, Violet, can you send that photo to me right away?" What photo?" "The one you took yesterday from Miss Monica." "Oh, you mean the one from your idol and her boyfriend? Okay, I'll send them to you. I didn't expect you to be so gossipy." Jade felt a stabbing pain in her heart. Dario was clearly her husband and not Miss Monica's boyfriend. But now, he has become the man in other people's mouths. Violet quickly sent the picture over, but Jade didn't dare to open it for a long time. She trembled as she held the phone. She was a little confused. Should she tell the truth? Dario might refuse to admit it. If she pretended to not know, could they continue their relationship? If she told him that she knew, they couldn't be husband and wife anymore, and he probably wouldn't be gentle with her. When she thought of this, her heart ached. She had just sworn that she would reveal his true colors, but now that she had the evidence, she didn't want to use it. She was afraid that if she did, they wouldn't be able to go back to their normal relationship. As she was hesitating about whether she should show him the photo, Dario suddenly came in. Episode 187. A bunny turned into a fox. "Eat more," Dario said. Jade was shocked when he came in, but she immediately pretended that nothing had happened and calmly put the phone in her pocket. If he knew that she had such a photo, would he suspect that she was following him? Wouldn't this make her seem too... And by doing so, wasn't it obvious that she was questioning him? A person as arrogant as Dario would definitely be angry and disappointed with her. Thinking of this, Jade didn't want him to see the photos anymore. But Dario noticed all her movements and all the changes in her eyes. He narrowed his eyes and approached her step by step. Before Jade could react, Dario had already reached out his hand and grabbed her phone out of her pocket. "Ah, what are you doing?" By the time Jade reacted, Dario had already opened the screen and entered her new password with ease. Dario first tried her birthday, but that wasn't it. He then entered 6 numbers from her ID card. Jade just stared at him blankly and didn't know what to do. "Hey, did you peek at my password?" Jade looked at him angrily. Dario glanced at her indifferently. "Do you think I need to peek?" Jade always felt that he was belittling her. He wanted to say that he didn't need to peek and could easily guess her password. "Damn it," Jade said to herself. Dario got into her phone and opened a new text message. When he saw the photo, surprise flashed across his eyes, but he quickly regained his usual calm attitude. "Is this the evidence you were talking about?" Dario looked at her in disbelief. He finally knew why his little wife had been so fickle lately. Now you can see it, there's nothing else to say." Jade fiercely glared at him and instantly felt very uncomfortable. She felt that she was almost unable to breathe. However, when Dario saw the photo, Jade didn't see any guilt on his face. Instead, he seemed to be a little happy. What was going on? Could it be that he was so shameless that he didn't care? "Hey, what are you laughing at?" Jade looked at the corner of his mouth that was curling into a smile. He seemed to be holding back his laughter. Jade said to herself, "What's so funny? That bastard, what's he laughing at?" "I'm sorry, I couldn't hold it in any longer." Dario tried not to laugh at first, but he couldn't help himself when he saw the photo and Jade's reaction. "Hey, now it's you who cheated, Dario. Aren't you at least a little embarrassed?" Jade clenched her fist tightly. Her clear apricot eyes were filled with anger. Given the situation, shouldn't he be crying and trying to explain himself? "Sex?" When Dario heard these 2 words, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect that these 2 people would one day be used against him. Did his condition actually require cheating? Sometimes Dario really wanted to pry open his wife's little head to see what was inside. "Look, the evidence is conclusive. Are you still not going to admit it?" Jade poked hard at the picture on the screen. Her eyes were full of disappointment, especially when she saw his attitude. She was becoming increasingly unhappy. He didn't have her in his heart at all. Otherwise, how could he have such an attitude? "You're right. The evidence is conclusive." Dario covered his mouth. Jade had completely destroyed his aloof image as the important president. Jade took a deep breath when she heard him admit it. He admitted it so readily. She looked at him in disbelief. The despair that had been building in her for a long time finally burst out at that moment. "You bastard! You finally admitted. You admit that you and Miss Monica are together, right?" Dario nodded very seriously and responded, "Yes, we were together a long time ago." You were together a long time ago. Then why are you with me now, you beast? You even said that you love me, so you don't like me at all? You even lied to me about your feelings for me. You're a hypocrite." Jade practically shouted out these words, and her tears suddenly came pouring down. She couldn't stop herself from crying. Seeing her like this, Dario felt a trace of guilt in his heart. He originally wanted to tease her. He blamed her for not believing in him, but he hadn't expected her to become so agitated. He nervously hurried forward, trying to comfort her. But before his hand touched her, Jade fiercely stretched out her fist and hit his chest with great force. Bastard, you're an animal. You lied to me. If you like Miss Monica so much, you can stay with her. Oh, go. You can have your wish." Jade turned around when she finished speaking and tried very hard to take off the ring on her finger. Dario stared at her and quickly stepped forward. Ignoring her resistance, he hugged her tightly and put her ring back on. He said in a warning tone, "Don't take it off." "Who wants your ring anyway? You can have it back." Now that she saw the ring, she was furious. When she was still trying to take off the ring, Dario grabbed her slender white wrist and pushed her up against the wall. He kissed her trembling lips. Jade hadn't expected him to kiss her in a situation like this. She was stunned for a moment, but then she reacted and started to push him away with all her might. If she couldn't push him, she would bite him. "Go away. I don't want you to kiss me after you've been kissing someone else's mouth. I feel disgusted." Jade didn't know where she got the strength, but she pushed him away. This made Dario's eyes light up. He had underestimated her. He didn't think she was so strong. However, very quickly, he would make her lose all her strength. "You aren't allowed to leave again," Dario said in a commanding tone as he held her chin tightly. As he spoke, he stuck out his tongue and licked his lower lip. He couldn't believe how ruthless she was being. He thought that she was like a bunny that had become a little fox. "You're still not letting me go." Jade looked at him coldly. She simply couldn't understand what he was thinking. She felt that he was beyond shameless. Did he want her to watch him show his affection to another woman? This man was too cruel. Episode 188. The President. Jade fiercely shook off Dario's hand. Hatred instantly appeared in her eyes. "Dario, you're too much. I really misjudged you. I didn't think you were this kind of person. I'm very disappointed in you." As she spoke, she even pretended to drool. It was as if kissing him had made her sick. When he saw her, Dario was immediately stimulated. In the past, he thought that she was a little sheep. He hadn't expected that if he angered her, the little sheep would become a fierce lion. It seemed that if he didn't tell the truth, this lion would swallow him alive. Dario had lived for 26 years and had always stood at the top. Everyone always obeyed his orders. This was the first time that he had ever felt that he couldn't control the situation. He felt powerless for the first time in his life. He thought that this little wife of his was really powerful. Looking at her angry face and fierce eyes, Dario thought that Jade looked like she might bite him at any moment. Dario finally sighed and showed an expression that seemed to admit defeat. "You are really too powerful." Dario had not finished speaking. He wanted to say, when her imagination was so rich, but Jade had already begun to misunderstand the first half of his sentence. She thought that he was going to say that she was powerful and that she had actually discovered that he cheated on her. She thought that he was going to admit that he had cheated. She thought, "Okay, let's lay our cards on the table so that we can end it." At least she would still be honest. They had no love for each other when they got married anyway. "Yeah, I don't want to be so powerful." "If I'm not very powerful, Mr. Foster, you can keep your secret forever." Jade revealed a cold smile and looked at him with an angry face. She felt that her heart was already dead. She was in so much emotional pain that she could hardly breathe. She tightly clenched her fists and bit her lips. She kept telling herself that she couldn't cry in front of this man. She turned around and pretended not to care. "I'll pack my own things and leave, Mr. Foster. I won't take any of the things you gave me. Also, I owe you money. I'll pay you as soon as I've saved enough." Jade picked up her bag and left without saying a word. But as she stepped out of the bedroom door, she thought that she might be leaving this place forever, and her heart began to ache again. She couldn't stop the tears from flowing down. In just a few seconds, Jade's tears were flowing like water from a tap. They kept coming down, and she couldn't stop them, no matter how hard she tried. Damn it! Dario wanted to clearly explain the situation to her. He didn't think that she would misunderstand him so quickly. He cursed himself and immediately stepped forward and hugged her from behind. As soon as he hugged her, Dario felt a drop of warm liquid on the back of his hand. He looked at the drop of clear liquid and felt a pain in his heart. He should have told her clearly from the beginning. He shouldn't have joked with her. If he had, she wouldn't be so sad. It was all his fault. "Don't cry." Dario's low and charming voice rang in her ears. Jade didn't know why, but when she heard his voice, she felt even sadder and began to cry even harder. Dario was a little flustered as he raised his hand to wipe away the tears from the corners of her eyes. He couldn't help but kiss the tears on her face. Dario found it really heartbreaking to see her that way. "Get lost. Get away from me with your dirty hands and your dirty mouth. Don't touch me." Jade violently twisted her body and tried to resist. Seeing that he wasn't letting go of her, she even pinched and bit his arm. Although Dario's arm was very strong, it couldn't withstand her torment. She'd used her nails to forcefully cut his arm, and there was a bloody cut on it. It was a shocking sight. She was the only one who could hurt him. Seeing Jade like this, Dario, who had always been calm, started to panic. His eyes were full of regret and guilt. For so many years, no matter what he encountered, he could face it calmly. There was never a trace of expression on his face, but now, because of Jade, he could no longer control himself. Jade struggled as she grabbed his arm. She didn't show any mercy at all. He refused to let go of her, so she continued to torture him. After a while, she didn't even know what had happened. Maybe she had grabbed him too hard. She actually heard Dario moan in pain. Jade was absent-minded. She stopped right away when she heard him moan. She looked down and found that she had cut his arm. The horrifying scratches were intertwined, and her nails were stained with blood. She guiltily looked at her hand and turned back to take a look at Dario's face. Only then did she realize that Dario's handsome eyebrows were tightly locked together. It seemed like he was in great pain. The moment she turned her head, Dario took the opportunity to kiss her lips. Jade originally wanted to resist, but when she saw the guilt and pain in Dario's eyes, she suddenly forgot about resisting him. She just allowed the handsome man in front of her wantonly to kiss her. When he stuck his tongue in her mouth, Jade twitched and moved a little. In the end, she didn't resist anymore, but she didn't give him any response. He saw that she didn't react, so he didn't charge forward. Instead, he was very patient and kissed her gently. He reached out his warm and wide palm and gently stroked her red cheeks. He wanted to wipe away all her tears. Jade, who was originally determined to leave him, slowly fell into his gentle kiss. No, she thought. She couldn't kiss him. I can't be fooled by him anymore. Jade wanted to resist, but she had no strength left at all. Every time he kissed her, she felt like all of her strength was being used up. To prevent her from falling down, Dario tightly hugged her and made her lean against his body. He only stopped kissing her when he realized that she was about to suffocate. He gently lifted her chin and looked up at him out of her blurry eyes. Dario's dark eyes revealed his determination. He said, "Don't say you're leaving so easily next time. I will never let you have the chance to leave me again." At that moment, Jade was in a daze and didn't listen carefully to what he was saying. In a stupor, she wondered when she had ever left him the first time. Jade breathed slowly and only reacted after a long time. After she had calmed down, her eyes suddenly became cold. She raised her hand and wiped her lips with force. It seemed like she wanted to wipe away the marks that he had left. She took a deep breath. It was as if she had just given up what she loved most. In extreme pain, she said, "Mr. Foster, I really can't accept this. I only have one heart. Please, don't play with me anymore, okay?" Episode 189. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Dario was reluctant to stop kissing Jade's lips. He only stopped when he noticed how much she was resisting. He looked into her eyes with a rare tenderness and said, "Miss Monica and I have indeed known each other for a long time, longer than you might think, but I think you've misunderstood the relationship between us." Jade angrily turned her head and wiped her tears away. She said, "You're showing off. Have you actually known her for a long time?" "Yes, I have." Jade had known him for a little more than a month. If they were childhood sweethearts, how could she compete with Miss Monica? Dario sighed helplessly. Why did she misunderstand his words again? He quickly replied, "It looks like you don't want to talk to me anymore. Call your good friend. I think she will tell you the answer." "Which good friend?" Jade looked at him strangely. How did any of this relate to her good friend? "That good friend of yours who writes novels. You should call her now." "You mean Faye? Why would I call her?" Jade was even more confused. "You'll find out when you call her." Jade grabbed her phone and didn't say anything else. Dario took it from her and found Faye's number. He called her. After a long time, a man answered Faye's phone. "Who is it?" What was going on? Jade was stunned for a moment. Why did a man answer? Dario appeared much calmer than Jade. It was as if he already knew what was going on. He seemed to expect this man to answer. He put the phone to his mouth and put it on speakerphone. "Well, tell me, what is the relationship between you and me?" Dario didn't even greet him before directly asking this question. He seemed certain that Will Jones would answer the phone. Jade stood at the side. She was dumbfounded. What was going on? Will Jones's voice was very familiar. Wasn't he the person who bullied Faye last time? Why would he answer Faye's phone? Was he at her house? A little while later, a lazy voice came through the line. It was Faye's voice. "Hey, you bastard. Why did you take my phone? Give it to me. Hurry up and cook for me. The phone is for me. This has nothing to do with you." "What kind of joke is this? This is my phone. Why would I look for you? Who is it? My sister-in-law and my big brother, Will said very seriously. Faye suddenly stopped talking. The complicated relationship between Faye and Will depressed Jade. Dario didn't seem to want to explain anything to her when he noticed that she was doubtful. I don't want to ask again. Dario was a little annoyed that these two people ignored him. His tone became even colder. Ah, brother, Dario, it's you. I thought it was you. Why did you call me on Jade's phone? What's our relationship? We're brothers. And tell me again about your relationship with Miss Monica. Dario stared at Jade as he spoke to Will. He even pointed at his phone, as if he was telling her to listen carefully. What has happened to you today, Dario? Did you lose your memory? Miss Monica is my sister. She's my biological sister. What's wrong? Why are you asking me this stuff? Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Get lost. Dario hung up the phone as soon as he finished speaking. He didn't care if Will had anything else to say or not. The answer should be obvious enough. Faye was lying in bed at home. To Will, she said, That was Jade's husband, right? Why did he want to talk to you? She was worried about something. The last time she saw Jade and Dario, they seemed to be in trouble. But she didn't have time to worry about it. After Will threw away the phone, he went back to the bed and pressed Faye under him. Why do you care so much? Let's continue. Continue? Continue my ass. I still have a script to write. I don't have time to mess around with you. Faye angrily looked at the scoundrel in front of her. He was clearly very rich, yet he still insisted on hanging around her house all day, complaining that he had no place to go, and he even ate her dry and wiped her clean. Damn it. Most importantly, she actually didn't have any room to resist, even though she didn't want to resist. Oh, is that so? I recently heard that there's a newcomer. His script isn't bad. Since no one is looking at your column, why don't you just cut it off? Will had a look of pity on his face. Why don't I push you off me first? Faye stared at him angrily. Will was simply shameless. He knew that the column was her life, but he still bothered her about it all day long. Will sighed and then said, Originally, I wanted to recommend it to you through all channels next month. Now it seems that some people don't care about it anymore. Will shook his head and once again had a regretful look in his eyes. When Faye heard him talk about the recommendations through all channels, her eyes lit up, and she immediately called her father. As expected, all rich people were big shots. Come, Dad, let's continue fighting for 300 rounds. Jade had no idea what was going on, and her mind was in a daze. She said to herself, What kind of relatives are they? What kind of brother is Will? What kind of sister is Miss Monica? Do you understand now? Dario looked at her coldly. Jade tried to understand and then shook her head decisively. I don't understand. What does any of this have to do with you cheating on me? Dario's face twitched. After a long time, he managed to suppress his anger. He gritted his teeth as he explained. Didn't you hear about the relationship between Will and Miss Monica just now? It was said that the IQ of a woman in love was negative. It seemed that that was correct. Jade thought about it carefully. She thought she remembered that Will said that Miss Monica was his sister and that Dario was his older brother. So in other words, the three of them are siblings? Jade thought. After Jade tried to understand their relationship with great difficulty, Dario opened his eyes wide. They were filled with astonishment. But Miss Monica and Will don't have the same last name. Jade didn't know what was going on. She had a headache and thought that she was mixing up her words. Jade, did you graduate from primary school? Don't you know about stage names? Dario felt helpless. He used to think that his wife was smart, but now he thought that she was cute and stupid. Oh, right. Stage name. Why was she so stupid? Didn't a lot of actors get their real names and their stage names confused? Do you understand now? Dario almost broke down when he said these three words. He had never been so patient with anyone before. What does this mean? Didn't you hear me just now? So you and Will and Miss Monica are siblings. You have a brother and sister? At that moment, Jade's jaw dropped and her mouth hung wide open. She almost screamed out loud. Episode 190. A Misunderstanding. So what's the situation now? Miss Monica, Will, and Dario seem to be siblings after all, Jade thought. So is Will your brother? She asked Dario. And if so, is Miss Monica your elder sister? There was uncertainty in her voice, and she smiled awkwardly. Jade studied Dario's face carefully. From his expression, it didn't seem like he was lying. Dario was handsome, despite his extremely angry appearance at that moment, and Will, even though he wasn't a very good person, was equally good-looking. With that mix of Anglo-Saxon and Latin genes that they shared, they did look like family. That was a powerful gene combination. Dario nodded helplessly. To be precise, they are my uncle's son and daughter. We grew up together, so we know each other very well. I'm not lying about that, he explained patiently to her. Jade's mouth fell open. In other words, Monica is your cousin. If you don't believe me, you can call your good friend and ask. I think by now she should be very clear about who Will's relatives are. Jade cleared her throat and quickly changed the subject. By the way, she said, what's going on between Faye and Will? Just what it looks like. Will seems to be bullying her a lot. Can you please tell him? The last time she had seen Will's treatment of her when they were at her house, it had concerned her. When Dario realized that Jade was actually worrying about someone else, he did a facepalm. Then he couldn't stop himself from stretching out his hand and knocking her lightly over the head. I see you're getting worked up over other people's problems. Don't worry so much about others. I think Will and Faye know what they're doing. Besides, they're both adults. You should limit yourself to worrying about your own problems and let other people lead their lives as they see fit. As he spoke, Dario held Jade firmly in his arms and gave her a reproachful look. Jade nodded thoughtfully. Did something happen between those two after we left that day? She wondered. But she decided to stop thinking about it, as it was an extremely awkward subject. Then, why didn't you just explain everything when I took out the photo? She'd wanted to ask him this earlier because it would have avoided so many misunderstandings. But now, knowing that they were cousins made Jade even angrier. A trace of a smile appeared on Dario's face, as well as a look that could be described as deceptive. He was, indeed, concealing something. It was the issue of his relationship with Evelyn. She wasn't a blood relation. She was the daughter of his uncle's current wife. However, he didn't plan to let Jade know that. In any case, the matter between them had already been resolved. If I had told you earlier, how would I have discovered that my little fool is the jealous type? He asked with a chuckle. Jade thought about making a sarcastic remark, but when she saw the wounds on his arm, she decided not to fight back. However, what he had told her made her extremely angry. She bit her lip and frowned. Did he do this just to watch me get jealous? She wondered. It was really infuriating. Just a short while ago, she had confidently said that she wanted to reveal Dario's true colors, but now it seemed that she had made a fool of herself. The most innocent person, in the end, was Dario. Fortunately, Miss Monica didn't know about this matter, and if it became public, she would become a laughingstock. I'm not jealous, it's just that I just can't bear to see people being disloyal to their spouse. Now that she knew the truth, Jade suddenly felt too ashamed to face anyone. All she wanted at that moment was to find a place to hide. Sure enough, I shouldn't be so impulsive, she thought. I should try to figure things out first before lashing out. Then I'm not loyal yet, Dario said. He lifted her chin, making her stare into his eyes. She was embarrassed enough already, but by forcing her to look at him, he would make her feel even more ashamed. Okay, you are loyal, she conceded. Apparently, I'm not, Dario exclaimed. Somebody just a moment ago said they wanted to reveal my true colors and even said that they had evidence to show me. But in the end, they made a big mistake. In fact, you even suspected that I wanted to leave you. Do you think that I would let go of that matter just like that? His dark eyes narrowed, and there was a dangerous gleam in them. Since Jade actually had suspected him, it seemed like he wanted to punish her properly. Jade looked into his eyes and felt the danger. She hurriedly averted her gaze and said, with embarrassment in her voice, You can't play with me like that. It was all my fault, but anyone who saw that photo would have misunderstood. Besides, when you saw the picture of Bruce and me, didn't that also make you angry? Didn't you misunderstand as well? I think we're even. What if I said I didn't misunderstand anything when I saw that photo? Dario asked, his face suddenly darkening. Indeed, when he had first seen the picture of Jade with Bruce, he had felt some anger. But he had quickly realized that someone must have sent it with an ulterior motive, and that motive must be to target Jade. That was why he'd asked Lucas to check the sender's number as soon as he could, and also why he had met Amelia in the morning to settle the matter. When Jade heard the question, she was at a loss for words. He'd been so unexpectedly good to her when he had seen the photo. He apparently hadn't suspected her of anything. He had carried her to bed and had even cooked breakfast for her. And then, when she had seen the pictures of him with other women, the first thing she had chosen to do was to doubt him. Right now, it seemed that she was the one who didn't care about this marriage. She felt guilty, bit her bottom lip, and resisted the urge to cry. She looked at him remorsefully. "It's my fault. I shouldn't have doubted you. But you should have explained it all to me earlier." She looked at the scratches on Dario's arm with tears in her eyes. Episode 191. Just joking. Jade hadn't really expected her nails to cause so much damage, and she was amazed that Dario hadn't even fought back. She hurriedly pulled him onto the bed and found the medicine box. Then, she frantically started to apply bandages to his wounds. In the end, she even gave him a kiss on the arm. Looking at those shocking injuries had brought tears to her eyes. She was crying as she tended to them, and her tears mixed with the antiseptic lotion and were absorbed into his skin. During the entire process, Dario didn't do anything but let her wrap bandages around his arm. But when he saw her cry, he couldn't help but reach out his hand to wipe her tears. He gently raised her face and looked at her with tenderness in his eyes. "You're very good. You're the best person in the world. In the future, you must never doubt me. Believe me, no matter what happens, I will not betray you, nor will I ever doubt you. Do you understand?" he said. Jade tried to blink her tears away. His kind words made her feel even more uncomfortable. At the same time, what he said brought warmth to her heart. These remarks seemed even more meaningful than the 3 words, "I love you," that he had said the last time. They were even more likely to melt her heart. "Mr. Foster, are you speaking to me with love in your heart?" Jade raised her eyebrows, and the corners of her mouth curled up in an intoxicating smile. "If you think so, then I must be," Dario said lightly. He seemed to be a different person than the man who just a short while ago had uttered such unpleasant things to her. Jade pouted unhappily when she heard him say that. What kind of answer is this? What does he mean, "if I think so," she wondered. Does he think that saying he loves me is going to kill him? He's so stubborn. That other time, he had clearly whispered, "I love you," in her ear, but he later wouldn't admit he said it. He was really annoying. Seeing her cute pouting face, Dario lowered his head and kissed her tender lips. He pulled her onto the bed and let her lean against his chest. She put her head against his shoulder and felt his warmth. Now that the misunderstanding had been cleared up, she felt at ease. Only at that moment did she realize how afraid she had been that he would leave her. Dario gently put his mouth to her ear and said in a low and charming voice, "How are you now? Are you no longer angry?" "Oh, stop it. I know I was wrong, okay?" she said. He had asked her with so much gentleness that it made her feel even more ashamed. He should be the one who's angry, she thought. "Then, do you still think it's right that you packed your things? And do you still want to leave?" Dario asked, shifting his gaze to Jade's bulging suitcase. Of course, his bag was also packed and ready in the closet. "I'm not leaving, if that's okay." Jade desperately lowered her head so far that she almost fell off the bed. Fortunately, Dario was supporting her. After that, she twisted around in his arms to face him. Suddenly, an idea popped into her mind, and she said with a wicked smile, "But since the things are already packed, let's keep it that way for now." "Oh? Let's keep it that way for now? What are you trying to do?" Dario stared at her intently, as if he had already guessed what she meant. Jade smiled. She was still blaming him for not having told her the truth earlier and making her so embarrassed, so she deliberately said, "If our things are already packed, the next time we fight, I can just take my bag and leave." She glanced at him out of the corner of her eye, wanting to see how he would react. He didn't react in anger, as she had expected. Instead, there seemed to be the beginning of a smile on his lips. "He's not angry at all," she thought. "Oh, but how could I forget? He's an expert at this. I'll never be able to defeat him. Forget it. Give up." "Oh, is that so?" Dario raised his eyebrows. The indifference in his voice made Jade's hair stand on end. Whenever he said, "Oh," very calmly, she got an ominous feeling. Seeing Dario's uncertain expression, Jade punched him lightly on the chest and said apologetically, "I was just joking. You won't take it seriously, will you?" Of course I know you're joking. However, some people seem to have forgotten what I said. Jade looked at him in puzzlement. What are you talking about? Did I do something wrong again? She wondered. Why do I keep feeling that something is about to happen? I told you, some people. He trailed off before continuing. It seems like I haven't been able to satisfy you these days. You're asking me for it so desperately. Since my wife has a request, then I have no choice but to oblige, he finished saying. He looked a bit helpless, as if there was nothing he could do. Jade became so angry that she almost died. How can he be so shameless? She wondered. His words made her face turn red, and she glared fiercely at him. What do you mean? She spat out. Can you not be so wretched all the time? Dario smiled and reached out roughly to grab a hold of her. There was heat in his dark eyes. You've called me Mr. Foster so many times recently, and you're still thinking of leaving. Isn't it because you want to come with me? Dario deliberately put his mouth close to Jade's ear and lowered his voice. He had turned on the charm again, but Jade didn't know what he was getting at. What? You think too much. Jade was just about to explain herself clearly when Dario unexpectedly turned over and, taking hold of her, moved her onto her back. Before she could react, he locked lips with her. He pressed himself onto her body. Every time he did that kind of thing, Dario would be like a different person, completely losing his usual calmness and coldness. It was as if he never could get enough and would become greedily demanding. Until she was exhausted, only then would he let her go. Don't be like this in the daytime, Jade said, trying to hold him back as he started kissing her neck. Episode 192. Just wait until nighttime. Dario didn't stop what he was doing. Instead, he looked at her playfully and carried on trying to seduce her. Do you mean you prefer doing this at night? No, it's just that I've got to do a photo shoot later, Jade said, glaring at him. Why does he always misunderstand me? She wondered. No need to go. You can't go anywhere today. Dario extended his hands and grabbed hold of her slender wrists, placing them both on top of her head. That way, her graceful figure was fully displayed in front of him. Jade was extremely shy and she felt ashamed to be in that position. Also, it was broad daylight and the curtains weren't even drawn. Jade wasn't that thick-skinned yet. She closed her eyes. Dario looked at her through narrowed eyes. He seemed to have noticed something and immediately suppressed his desire to continue looking. He turned around and pulled the curtains shut. The purple curtains they had chosen were thick, and after they were pulled, the entire room became much darker. The brightness was immediately reduced by half, and it almost seemed like nighttime. The atmosphere in the room became sultry. Dario stood directly in front of Jade and slowly started undressing. His moves were seductive, and he looked like an actor out of a movie scene. He slowly uncovered his strong chest and revealed a perfectly chiseled six-pack. Every inch of his skin seemed to emit the smell of desire and male hormones. Jade's eyes widened at the sight. But as soon as she realized what was happening, she immediately covered her eyes and shouted, Dario, what are you doing? Is it better now? Dario asked after taking off his pants. He felt the heat radiating off his body. When he approached Jade, he felt even hotter. He was like a fire shooting flames at her. Jade's body temperature also slowly began to rise, and the warmth gave her pale skin a deep, rosy glow. Dario lowered his head and gently began kissing every inch of her. It was as if he were handling an extremely precious piece of art. His movements were unhesitant and very tender. Each kiss he gave made Jade's body even warmer. Her mind went blank, and she instantly forgot about her work. Just when Dario was about to reach out his hand and start taking off her clothes, a phone rang, interrupting them. Jade reached out her hand to grab the phone from the table. Dario didn't want her to answer it, but it was Caroline calling. She had no choice but to be ruthless and said to him, Dario, please, I really have to go. We can carry on again at night, okay? Tonight, you can do whatever you want. Oh, whatever I want? Hearing this, Dario stopped moving and let go of her. He narrowed his eyes and said slyly, Remember what you said. Tonight, you'll let me do whatever I want. Jade regretted having spoken those words, but she couldn't take them back now. If she objected, Dario would definitely not let her go. Caroline McCoy was one of the most famous agents in the industry, and there were many celebrities much more famous than Jade, so she didn't feel like she had the right to be arrogant and act like a big star. She was very grateful to be working with Caroline and didn't want to inconvenience her by being late. Dario kissed her fiercely and then reluctantly let go of her. Although he had already taken off his clothes, he didn't want Jade to be late for work because of him. Otherwise, she would undoubtedly start to lose her temper again. I only have to wait until nighttime, he thought. Thinking back to what she had just said, an evil smile appeared on his lips as if he were planning something. Let's go. I'll go down with you. Dario had already cooled off. He picked up his clothes from the floor and put them back on. Don't bother. I can go down on my own. Although those were the words that came out of her mouth, Jade still wanted to spend a bit more time with him. Dario read her mind at first glance. He directly took her hand and walked out with her. Caroline, who was waiting downstairs impatiently, greeted Dario, and then she and Jade quietly got in the car and drove off. That day, Jade was going to be photographed for the cover of a magazine. The magazine was the very famous Beauty of the World. Only the most famous people appeared in it, and as the new advertising goddess, Jade naturally deserved to grace the cover. This time, the scene was at the beach. The photo shoot was going to be quite simple. She only needed to wear a hat and a collection of long dresses and make a few movements. Jade started out wearing a white beach dress in the latest style. She looked natural and charming. The photographer suggested she go barefoot, so she kicked off her sandals and stepped onto the sand with her bare feet. Without shoes, she looked even more pure and elegant. Several people stopped to watch. The photo shoot went smoothly, but because she had to change into a lot of clothes, it took a long time. In the blink of an eye, it was evening. The view of the sea as twilight approached was spectacular, but Jade didn't have time to gaze at the sunset. She just wanted to finish quickly. Dario had said that he would prepare dinner for her, so she was anxious to get back home. Once they had finished taking the pictures, she thanked the director and the cameraman and went off to get changed. The dressing room they were using was a public facility, but there was no one in it at that time, as most of the beachgoers had already left. Jade went in to find a spot in which to change into her own clothes. She saw a couple of questionable-looking men walking up and down outside the entrance, as if they were searching for something. She didn't like the look of them, and they made her nervous, so she hurried toward the farthest cubicle with the intention of getting ready and leaving immediately. However, she didn't expect the danger that lay ahead. Just as she was reaching for the door, she saw a figure dressed in black scuttle out from behind a column. Episode 193. A Brush with Death. It was a man. As this was a woman's changing room, Jade was certain he must be a pervert. Just as she was about to scream, he rushed up from behind her and forcefully covered her mouth with his hand. At the same time, she felt the cold blade of a knife against her throat. She was afraid that if she made any movement, the sharp edge would slice her neck. Don't shout. It would be very easy for me to end your life. Be very quiet if you want to keep breathing, he said. The man's voice was laced with cruelty, leaving little doubt that he would carry out his threat. However, he also sounded a little weak. He panted when he spoke, as if he were out of breath. Jade detected a metallic odor that smelled like blood. She thought that the man must be injured. Jade swallowed nervously. She didn't dare move. Now that she was being held hostage, it was better to try to grasp the man's intentions before attempting anything. With the knife pressed against her slender neck, she was certain that any movement would result in serious injury. This was the last situation she'd expected to find herself in at the end of the day. A few thoughts flashed through her mind. Who is this person? Is he the one who kidnapped me? Is he here to harm me? Could he have been sent by Bruce? But why would Bruce have sent an injured person? Hey, you're quite docile. When the man saw her obediently standing there without moving, his cold eyes flashed. Suddenly, the sound of two male voices came from outside. Come, let's go over there and take a look. Damn it, where did he run off to? The colour suddenly drained out of the assailant's face, and Jade's heart jumped. Are the men I saw outside in the corridor looking for him? Who is this man? Is he involved in some dispute? Will this bring me even more trouble? She wondered. Damn it, the man muttered, looking at Jade. Time was of the essence, and he had no choice. Listen to me carefully, he whispered in a harsh tone. Take off your clothes. Act as if you're getting changed. Don't do anything else, or I will kill you with no regrets. Jade was terrified, but fearing for her life, she didn't dare put up a fight. What did he just say? Did he just tell me to take off my clothes? How could I undress in front of a stranger? She thought. The man seemed to read her mind and said in disdain, You're as thin as a rake. I have no interest in you. Just do as I say. Take them off or die." As he spoke, he put away the knife for a moment and even reached out his hand as if he wanted to help her undress. "Don't touch me. I'll do it myself," Jade said with a trembling voice. She tried her best to act calm. Although she was terrified, she knew that if she acted recklessly now, she really risked losing her life. The man narrowed his eyes and appeared to grimace in pain as he pulled her to the farthest changing room. As soon as they entered, they heard footsteps approaching, followed by the sound of doors opening, one after the other. The noise was getting closer and closer. Jade could feel her heart beating against her chest. The man leaned into her ear and whispered threateningly, "Hurry, take them off. If they find me, you will die." Jade was about to burst into tears. What is he doing? She thought. That man was polite enough to look away, indicating that he wasn't going to watch her undress. However, he kept the knife in his hand. The people outside were getting closer. Jade grabbed the hem of her gown. She thought, if I die, then so be it. And just like that, she pulled the dress off in front of the strange man. What she had not expected was for him to place the knife against her naked stomach. With an icy tone, he muttered, "Call out." Call? What do you want me to call out for?" Jade looked at him in a panic. "Call out, love," the man whispered through clenched teeth. Jade's eyes widened. She couldn't believe what he had just said. The man stared at a shadow that appeared under the door and suddenly embraced her. There was a stool in the changing room, and he dropped onto it, leaning against the wall. He pulled Jade onto his lap. "Hey, what are you doing?" Jade wanted to stand up, but the knife was still pressing against her stomach, so she didn't dare move a muscle. She decided that if he tried to do something to her, she would resist. Even at the risk to her life, she would not yield to him. Suddenly, Jade felt a stinging pain and cried out in fright. The man had given her a small cut with the knife, drawing from her a shriek. If one hadn't listened carefully, the sound could have been taken for any other sort of exclamation. "He's here!" Upon hearing her cry, the man outside banged open the door of the cubicle with a swift kick. Jade's assailant quickly pulled down the straps to her camisole. He had masterfully set the stage for a misinterpretation. Who are you?" Jade exclaimed when she saw the other man come in. She immediately moved to cover her upper body with her hands. The intruder was stunned and cursed under his breath. "It's a couple making out," he shouted. Then he slammed the door shut again. Jade's heart was pounding. The attacker had buried his head in her chest to conceal his face from the person who had just entered. Only when the footsteps outside had faded did Jade dare to speak. "Hey, you can stop that now," she said. The man's sharp gaze was as terrifying as that of a wolf. Jade held her breath and didn't dare make a move. After a moment, he finally lowered the knife and threw her clothes at her. "Put them on," he commanded. Jade turned so that her back was facing him and quickly dressed. She adjusted her shoulder straps. Aware of the danger she still faced, she did nothing to provoke the man. "Sir, can you let me go? They should be far away by now." Jade carefully turned around and pretended to be calm as she spoke to him. The man still held the knife in his hand. If she had not turned carefully just then, it was very likely that she would have felt the sharpness of the blade. Thinking of this, she felt her hair stand on end. The man raised his head and looked at her coldly. After that, he placed the small knife against her neck again. Episode 194. You are free to go now. "Find a way to get me out of here safely, otherwise I will kill you," the man hissed as he pressed the knife against Jade's throat. Jade's body trembled at his threat, and her eyes grew wide with fear. No matter how strong her motivation was, she was only a small woman. "You want me to help you get away? What if those people are still waiting outside?" Jade was so anxious that she almost burst into tears. Dario's figure kept appearing in her mind. It would be so great if he was here. He would be able to help me, she thought. But of course, Dario had no idea of what was going on at the beach. Nor did Caroline, who was still waiting outside and was clueless about what was happening inside the changing room. Jade shook her head. No, she had to stop relying on Dario. She wanted to become a stronger person and could not keep causing trouble for him. "Jade, it will be fine. Don't be afraid, just concentrate," she thought. As she continued motivating herself, she slowly became less afraid. "I don't care how you do it, just think of a way," the man said. He suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He turned pale, and a flash of pain traveled across his face. Jade had noticed that his left hand had been clutching his abdomen the entire time, and now it seemed that he was unable to hold on any longer. He started shaking. Although he still had the knife, he had let it slide down a bit to the side. She made a small movement. Seeing that there was no reaction from him, she tried to swivel her feet in the direction of the door to prepare for her escape. He's so weak now that if I wanted to leave, it should be easy, she thought. Are you all right? Jade swallowed hard and looked at the man carefully. She saw that his handsome face was contorted in pain. She was slow and careful with her movements, as she was still caught in his sharp gaze. He rolled his raven black eyes. There was an inscrutable expression on his face, and she couldn't figure out what was going on through his mind. Perhaps he was grateful that she had just saved his life. He pulled the knife away from her throat and sat on the stool. He exhaled sharply and changed into a more comfortable position, leaning against the wall. He seemed unable to support himself. "Get out!" he shouted at her. What? Jade was stunned. What did he just say? She wondered in surprise. He was so cruel to me just a moment ago and threatened to kill me, and now he's actually letting me go? Jade glanced cautiously at the knife he still held in his hand. She feared that the moment she turned around, he would stab her in the back, and it would be all over for her. The man seemed to have read her mind and glanced at her with indifference. He folded the knife and threw it on the floor out of his reach. Now, he would be unable to spring an attack on her by surprise. And given his current condition, it didn't look like he would be capable of doing much harm. "Are you relieved now?" he said in disdain. Jade was surprised by what he had done. What's he thinking? Didn't he demand that I get him out of there? Why is he suddenly letting me go? She wondered. Jade decided not to dwell too much on his reasons and carefully took a few steps back. The man kept still. It seemed like he really was willing to let her go, but she was still worried. She carefully studied his face for any indication of his intentions. Earlier, because she'd been so scared, she really hadn't stopped to notice his appearance. Now that she took a closer look, she found the man quite good-looking. In fact, he was astoundingly handsome. His angular face was chiseled as if his features had been carved by a sculptor. His hair was dark and thick. Under a pair of perfectly straight eyebrows were two compelling, almond-shaped eyes. They were filled with coldness, but also seemed capable of reflecting affection. They were the sort of eyes that people could get lost in. He boasted a perfectly straight nose and lush lips that, at that moment, were drawn back in a snarl. It was only the great pain he was feeling that detracted from his looks. He seemed like someone that others would put on a pedestal. "Why are you still standing there? Do you want to die?" the man said in a deep voice when he noticed that she wasn't leaving. Jade was frightened by his terrifying gaze and immediately turned around and stumbled out. Afraid that the man would be discovered by the people chasing after him, she made sure to close the door behind her. However, just as she took her first step out of the cubicle, she heard a thud come from inside. First, she froze in place. Then she turned around and opened the door again. She found the man collapsed on the ground. His brows were tightly knitted. He was lying there motionless and, at first, she thought that he had fainted. She stared at his eyes, which held a blank look, and he seemed somewhat familiar. She thought that maybe she had seen him a long time ago. But when? She couldn't remember, no matter how hard she tried. It was as if she had lost a part of her memory. Jade carefully stepped back out, looked up and down the corridor, and peered outside. Everybody was gone as it was almost nighttime. There was no sign of the other men, and there were no tourists left on the beach. It seemed safe to leave, but when she saw the man's painful grimace and the blood flowing out of his abdomen, her heart trembled, and she felt she had to do something to help him. She sighed and closed the door to the dressing room again. Carefully, she squatted in front of him and poked his calf several times, but he didn't move. He certainly didn't seem to represent a danger in the state he was in. "Hey, are you okay?" she said. "Hey, you've lost a lot of blood." Jade looked down in horror at the pool of blood on the floor and almost blacked out. She'd never seen so much of it before. The blood in his abdomen kept flowing out from between his fingers as if nothing would ever stop it. She immediately panicked. What should I do? What should I do? This man is going to die, she thought desperately. Although he'd been threatening her with a knife, he hadn't actually done anything. That meant that he was probably only trying to scare her and had no intention of harming her. And after that, he'd just let her go. Just as she was hesitating over what to do next, her phone rang and interrupted her thoughts. She answered with a trembling voice after several rings. "Hello, Caroline? "What's up?" she said, trying her best to keep calm. Episode 195. An Unexpected Visit. "Haven't you changed your clothes yet?" Caroline asked Jade over the phone. "Oh, I was just going to the bathroom. I'll be right out. Sorry to keep you waiting." After some deliberation, Jade decided that it was better not to tell the agent what had happened. She didn't know who the man was, and there were people chasing after him. What if he was a gangster or a fugitive? It wouldn't do her any good to cause trouble for Caroline. But she didn't want to leave the man alone to die. In the end, Jade decided to call an ambulance and wait in the dressing room for it to arrive. When she heard the siren in the distance, she heaved a sigh of relief. The man had lost so much blood already that he had lost consciousness. But when she stood up from the stool to go, he surprised her by tugging on the hem of her skirt. She had to yank hard to pull the cloth away from his grasp. She sighed, leaned down and told him, "There's an ambulance on its way. There's nothing much I can do to help, so I'm going." After saying that, she firmly pulled on the dress to rearrange it. She slipped into the cubicle next door for a moment to change into her own clothes, and then walked away. Caroline saw her come out and also saw the ambulance pull up by the changing rooms. A look of confusion crossed her face, but she didn't make any comment to Jade. "Do you want to ride home?" she asked her. "Yes," Jade replied uneasily. She wondered if she should tell Dario about the incident. Best not to say anything, she thought. If he finds out I've taken my clothes off in front of a strange man, he'll search for him to teach him a lesson, and he will find him, even if he's hiding in a cave. She wondered how the man was doing and looked over her shoulder toward the dressing rooms. The ambulance was standing there empty, so she was confident the paramedics would be tending to him. Just before they arrived at her house, Jade's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and saw it was the nurse Sheila. She immediately answered the call, worried that something might have happened to her grandmother. "Hello, Jade, where are you? Can you come to the hospital?" Sheila said with urgency in her voice. "A woman stopped by your grandmother's room. Your grandma seemed very upset and started scolding her. She mentioned your name. She said something about her having abandoned you. It seems as if this woman has something to do with you, Jade. Could she be your mother?" Sheila was somewhat familiar with Jade's situation, so she had called her immediately. "What? My mother?" Jade's eyes widened when she heard the news. Mother was a distant concept to her. How many years has it been? How long has it been since anyone has used this word in front of me? She thought. Other than her aunt and Ivana, who sometimes spoke of her mother just to ridicule her, the word was never mentioned. Jade hardly remembered her father who had passed away, and her mother was nothing more than a blurry memory. She had no recollection of her appearance. The story she heard was that her mother had abandoned her and cheated her father out of all his money. Now it sounded like her mother might have suddenly turned up. She really didn't know what to do or how to feel. She didn't know whether she should be happy or angry. She was angry that her mother had left her when she was so young, but she was also happy that maybe she would finally see her again. But how come if she's still alive? She hasn't contacted me for so long, she wondered. Her hands started shaking as she held the phone. She didn't really understand the implications of what Sheila was talking about. When she hung up, she was in a daze. "Caroline, I need to go to the hospital to see my grandmother." The agent was stunned for a moment, but immediately turned the car around. In less than 10 minutes, they had arrived. Caroline handed Jade her sunglasses and instructed her to pay attention to her image, even though it was after work hours. Caroline offered to go in with her and drive her home when she was done, but Jade declined. She said that she would make her own way back, so Caroline waved goodbye and drove away. Although it was almost dark out and wearing sunglasses seemed a little strange, Jade put them on. She felt that wearing them at night made her look cool, like a celebrity. As she rushed in through the entrance, a woman with her head down was walking toward her from the opposite direction. Neither of them was paying attention, and all of a sudden, they crashed into each other. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? It was my fault," Jade said apologetically. The woman in front of her looked to be in her 30s. She was quite stylish in a tight white dress that exposed her back. She had a beautiful physique, and her makeup highlighted her femininity. However, her eyes were red, as if she had just been crying. "Don't worry, it's okay," the woman said as she walked off with no trace of anger or annoyance. Jade stared at her retreating figure with concern, and only after assuring herself that she really was all right did she feel relieved and walk ahead. She didn't know why, but she felt that there was something familiar about the woman's appearance. Jade was anxious about the possibility of seeing her mother, and she was still wondering what she should say when she saw her. I should call her something. What should I call her? Mother? Or should I question her first? She wondered. However, she was soon to be disappointed. Just as she walked into the ward, she saw her grandmother sitting with a scowl on her face. She looked around anxiously and found that, other than her grandmother, there was no one else there apart from the nurse. "Grandma, what's wrong? Don't be angry. It's not good for you to get too emotional," she said. Jade's heart ached for her grandmother, and she went up and kissed her on the forehead. Although she didn't know what had happened to annoy her, she was sure it must have been something to do with her mother. "Jade, you should have arrived earlier," Sheila whispered in her ear. "She just left." "Let's just forget about it then," Jade said, hiding her disappointment and pretending to be calm. Episode 196. A Big Disappointment. Although she looked calm on the surface, Jade was extremely upset. Why didn't my mother wait for me to arrive when she hasn't seen me for over 10 years? She wondered. Could it be that I mean nothing to her? Although Jade felt no love for her, she was her mother after all, and blood was thicker than water. "Jade, I'm really sorry," her grandmother said. "I know you haven't seen your mother for more than 10 years. I shouldn't have let her go, but she just said something to me that—" Iris looked at her granddaughter with some hesitation, as if she was wondering whether she should finish the sentence. "Grandmother, what is it that you have to say? Just say it. It will be okay," Jade said. She could tell her grandmother was struggling with something. Although Jade was pretending to be indifferent, she was a bundle of nerves. She was very anxious to fill in the blanks of the past 10 years. Iris sighed. After thinking for a while, she decided to share what was on her mind. "Your mother said that she was forced to leave you more than a decade ago. I hope you don't resent her. I don't know what her reasons were, but what she did was her fault, and I hate her for it. But she is your mother, after all. Next time she comes, I'll try my best to let her see you." The look on her grandmother's face was hard to fathom, and there seemed to be a trace of pain in her eyes. Iris doted on Jade, and whenever she saw her, it made her think of her son. Jade was all she had left after losing her son. She was the only thing that kept her alive. Jade was not to blame for her mother's actions, and she had suffered her mother's abandonment for more than 10 years. How could Iris not blame that woman? Jade smiled, although she was far from happy. Her grandmother had always been very good to her. She knew that she didn't like her mother, but she had never said anything bad about her in front of Jade. No matter how much her aunt had bad-mouthed her mother, Iris had never chimed in. She hadn't wanted her granddaughter to grow up with a negative image of her mother. When Jade had asked about her whereabouts, Iris had always said that her mother had gone to a faraway place to work and earn money. "All right, Grandma, don't talk anymore. Get some rest. My mother is going to do whatever she feels like doing. She'll leave or she'll stay as she pleases, and there's nothing we can do about it." Over the years, Jade had felt that there was some secret between them, something her grandmother didn't want to talk about. She pretended not to notice anything and didn't ask too many questions. If Iris didn't want to tell her about something, she would stifle her curiosity and not ask. Anyway, she knew that whatever her grandma did was out of love for her. Around 8 o'clock, Jade fed her some oatmeal, and then Iris fell asleep. The night nurse arrived to take over from Sheila. Jade followed Sheila out to the corridor and pulled her aside. She wanted to know exactly what had happened and what had made her grandmother so angry. "Sheila, when she came, did she say anything? Did she ask for me?" Although she didn't mention who she was referring to, Sheila knew she was asking about her mother. Remembering the visitor, the nurse became serious. "I don't really know what happened," she said. "When I walked into the room, your grandma was angry and was scolding her. The woman was kneeling by your grandmother's bed and she was crying. What I heard her say was that she had been forced to do it. She kept saying that she had never forgotten you or your grandmother. She kept begging Iris to forgive you.
She said she knew that she had wronged you. Your grandmother told her that she should ask you for forgiveness, not her, that you were the person to feel sorry for."
Sheila sighed deeply. She couldn't imagine what sort of hardship would force a mother to abandon her daughter for more than a decade. Jade had been without a mother figure for all that time. Only God knew how much she must have envied other children when she saw them with their mothers and fathers. Jade had been left with an aunt who had taunted her, a cousin who had bullied her, and an uncle who had treated her with indifference. Didn't her mother realize that her daughter had been living such a painful existence? Sheila wondered. What on earth could she have been doing for the past 10 years? Then why did she suddenly leave? Didn't she know that I was on my way here? Jade asked after taking a deep breath. Actually, Sheila didn't know how to put it, and she trailed off. What is it? Jade asked, prompting her. Actually, she only left in a hurry after she heard you were coming, Sheila said with considerable difficulty. Jade thought her heart was going to crack. Although she hated the woman for what she had done, there was a little place inside of her that was burning with love because it was her mother. So she deliberately left just because I was coming. But why? Jade wondered in angry despair. Doesn't she love me? Then why did she give birth to me? Sheila's heart ached for Jade as she detected her inner turmoil, and she said to her gently, Jade, has it occurred to you that your mother may feel the same way you do? That she doesn't know how to face you and is not mentally prepared to see you yet? Jade gave her a bitter smile, and her eyes were filled with disappointment. Sheila, don't bother trying to comfort me. Anyway, she hasn't come to see me for more than a decade. Why would she suddenly want to see me now? Okay, don't try to read too much into it. What parent wouldn't love their own child? Sheila said with a heavy heart. She had a child of her own. She knew what it felt like to be a mother. Although it had been cruel of that woman to abandon her daughter for so many years, she was sure that there must have been a reason for it. Otherwise, why would she have done such a thing, she thought. Jade felt her throat tighten. It was as if something was blocking her heart. It was a very uncomfortable feeling, and tears started forming in her eyes. She kept them in check, telling herself not to cry. She had endured her loneliness for so many years, she should be used to it by now. It's all good. Haven't I always lived like an orphan without any parents? She thought. She ran to the washroom and splashed cold water on her face. Just as she was about to walk out, her phone rang. When she saw that it was Dario calling, she immediately cleared her throat and answered it, making sure that she sounded as if nothing had happened. Episode 197. Who Turned Up? It was already after 8 o'clock, and Jade had forgotten that Dario had said he would prepare dinner for her. She imagined that he was calling to tell her to hurry up. She immediately apologized to him. I'm sorry, Mr. Foster. I'm in the hospital right now. Something happened to Grandma. Oh. He didn't seem to be very interested, and it sounded like he already knew where she was. After that, there was silence on the other end of the line. Jade almost thought that he had hung up the phone. Why aren't you talking? She asked. What? Do you really want to hear me talk? Tell me. Did you want me to go crazy? He replied in his deep voice. His words brought a smile to Jade's face, and she shyly lowered her head. She did indeed miss him a bit, but nothing as exaggerated as what he was saying. I've missed you, but not that much. I've been very busy. I've been doing a photo shoot all afternoon, so I didn't have much time to think about you, Jade said as she pouted. Okay, since you don't want me, I'll hang up, Dario said lightly, as if he didn't care about her feelings at all. Jade almost choked when she heard him say that. If you want to hang up, then hang up. You are heartless. It's not on purpose that I'm late. Goodbye. Okay, goodbye. Jade was so angry that she gritted her teeth. She stared at the phone and waited for him to disconnect, but she never heard the click. Finally, she hung up. Later, she found out that he'd been waiting for her to end the call first. She felt a bit regretful. She should have told him the truth, that she really did miss him. But why had he spoken to her like that? Didn't he know that she was unhappy? He could have made her so much happier if he'd been nice to her. She really wanted to be with him just then, but the indifference in his voice had annoyed her, and she returned to the ward in a fit of anger. As she entered, she bumped into Sheila, who hadn't left yet. Jade, what are you still doing here? Sheila asked her.
What time is it now? Didn't I tell you the last time that you don't have to worry about your grandma? She has a nurse with her. You're so busy all day. You should really go back to your husband at night. It's not good to ignore your spouse." Jade smiled awkwardly. Sheila wanted her to rush home because she was concerned about the effects on her marriage. "Sheila, you hurry up and go so you can get some rest. I just want to check in on Grandma and I'll leave right away." "Okay. But make sure you do leave, otherwise your husband will be alone at home, which would be a shame." Jade's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. It was a shame to be at home alone. How had Dario spent the half-month when she'd been away? The kitchen didn't seem to have been touched during all that time, as if he hadn't even cooked for himself. Jade stayed in the ward for almost half an hour, and it was actually the night nurse who prodded her to go. "Miss Winslet, Nurse Sheila told me to make sure that you go home," she said. Jade almost fainted. Sheila instructed the night nurse to take care of me, she thought. She walked out of the ward but didn't rush off. Instead, she paced up and down the corridor and finally sent a message to Dario. "Mr. Foster, sleep by yourself tonight. I want to stay in the hospital with Grandma," it said. A mischievous smile appeared on her lips. She thought that if she said this, it would make Dario furious and he would insist she return immediately or something. However, she was disappointed when she didn't receive the answer she expected. He replied straight away with only one word. "Good." Good. What does that mean? Does it mean that he doesn't care if I don't return? She thought. Bastard. This is too much. Fine. If you don't want me to go back, I won't. And when I do go back, I'll kill you, Jade muttered as she angrily stormed toward the elevator. She had just turned a corner when a force pulled her over. She tripped and fell against a firm chest and struggled to regain her footing. She thought she had bumped into someone again, and just as she was about to apologize, she was wrapped in a bear hug. Jade was startled, and her heart leaped. She thought that she had stumbled upon a pervert. Just as she was about to let out a scream, she suddenly realized that the handsome face in front of her was actually familiar. She looked at Dario with disbelief and reached out to touch his cheeks. Still unsure of what her eyes were telling her, she poked him in the ribs. This wasn't the Dario she knew. "Stop poking me." A familiar yet bewitching voice sounded in her ears, and his dark eyes carried a rare trace of nostalgia because they hadn't seen each other for a day. "My wife has actually learned how to teach people a lesson. It seems I'm going to have to punish her tonight," he thought. "Mr. Foster, what are you doing here?" Jade asked in shock. Dario, on the other hand, seemed very calm. He'd expected her to be surprised by his visit. In fact, he'd arrived at the hospital shortly after Caroline had dropped her off and had been waiting for her there all that time. Dario's face broke into a smile, and he suddenly leaned toward her ear. He spoke to her in a low voice charged with emotion. "I haven't forgotten what you said this morning." Jade went beet red. She pretended not to understand what he was talking about. What? What did I say this morning?" "You know what you said." Dario's lips curled into a smile again. Disregarding the looks from the people in the hospital, he picked her up in his arms and carried her away. But first, he put on her sunglasses so she could hide behind them and not feel embarrassed. Jade didn't put up a struggle. She decided that he wouldn't put her down even if she resisted, so she might as well enjoy being carried. Dario took Jade to the car and placed her in the passenger seat. After fastening her seatbelt, he got in and started the car. Jade stroked the seatbelt with her fingertips, and a smile appeared on her face. She glanced with curiosity at the handsome and lawless man sitting beside her. She was amazed at how he could always surprise her. Episode 198. A Walking Bank. "Mr. Foster, why did you come to the hospital to pick me up? Why didn't you tell me in advance that you were coming?" Jade blinked and glanced at Dario's handsome face. No matter how many times she had him in front of her, she would never tire of looking at him. Moreover, the more she looked, the more handsome he appeared. It was intoxicating. "If I had told you in advance, it wouldn't have been a surprise. But tell me, why did you have to be chased away before you decide to come home?" Dario turned his head and looked at her with an enigmatic smile. Jade was stunned for a moment. How did he know that I was chased out? She thought. "What do you mean? Why do you think I was chased away? I wanted to stay here with Grandma. But when I thought of you being all alone at home, it seemed so sad that I changed my mind and decided to go home to be with you. See? Am I not good to you?" "Yes, you are. My Jade is the best. She only remembers her hubby when she's chased away." Dario couldn't stop himself from pinching her chin when he saw her cute appearance. He kissed her again. His words made Jade feel more embarrassed. That's not true. Besides, I just wanted to see Grandma. My grandma isn't an outsider, Mr. Foster. I find it hard to believe that you're jealous of my grandma. Dario just glanced at her. I'm not like some people who are jealous of family members, he said. When Jade heard this, she knew that Dario was referring to the matter between him and Monica. She lowered her head shyly and then glared at him in anger. I've already admitted that I was wrong about that. Why does he keep bringing up the subject? She wondered. She turned to look out the window and clammed up. Dario also started to concentrate on the road, no longer distracted from his driving. As Jade sat quietly in the passenger seat, she looked carefully around the car. Suddenly she remembered something that Violet had said to her. She had said that the man who had sent Monica over was very rich, and that this car was a limited edition that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Thinking that the car was so expensive, questions began popping into her mind. After a long time, she asked Dario, "How much did this car cost?" "You already know. Why are you asking me?" Dario said calmly. He seemed to know what she was thinking. So Violet didn't lie to me. This car really was that expensive, Jade thought, but she felt even more uncomfortable. You said that this car only cost you a few tens of thousands. Jade suddenly felt she'd been tricked and she pinched his belly. You made me feel so embarrassed. Lucas and David must be laughing at me. Jade hadn't grown up surrounded by luxury goods and knew nothing of brands, so she had no idea of the price of things. She began to feel inferior and dipped her head. She felt that she must be reducing Dario's status by being by his side. She must be an embarrassment to him, she decided, as she was even an embarrassment to herself. She suddenly thought of something and pulled out her phone to carefully look at the diamonds encrusted in it. She suddenly understood. No wonder she'd always thought they looked so shiny. She'd even compared them, side by side, to the fake diamond costume jewelry she had bought, and the difference was remarkable. It was because these were real. Mr. Foster, you lied to me about this phone too, didn't you? The diamonds on it are real, and the ring you bought for me? Such big diamonds. How expensive it must have been. Jade looked at her ring. Oh my God, there are so many of them. How much would it all cost if they were real? The thought was simply too terrifying. It wasn't that expensive, it just came to $80 million, Dario said calmly, without taking his eyes off the road. When Jade heard 80 million, she almost choked. What? How much? 80 million? Mr. Foster, you've got to be kidding me. I have to take this off right away. What if I lose it? I can't be walking around the street every day with $80 million on me. That can't be right. He must be lying to me, she thought. Dario saw that her face had turned white and gave her a relaxed smile. Do you think I said 80 million? What am I? Some sort of tycoon? In fact, his assets were worth considerably more than $80 million. But hearing that, Jade let out a sigh of relief. However, she still had doubts. She thought of all the expensive-looking gifts he'd given her, like the dresses. Her friends had remarked on the expensive brands, which cost thousands. Even his friends had made comments about her clothes. It seemed like it was true. She wasn't wearing clothes. She was wearing a bank. Then, if it wasn't 80 million, how much was it? Jade asked. She didn't dare try to guess, because if she said too little, she would seem uncultured and would embarrass herself. It wasn't much, Dario said, and paused for a moment. He slowed down the car and looked at her with deep affection before adding, It was only 8. Jade gave him a dirty look. She knew it had definitely cost more than $8. Does he think I'm a fool? She wondered. In the end, Dario had no choice but to tell her the truth. At $1 million, he said. What? Jade, who had just recovered, was shocked again. 80 million was ridiculous, but 8 million was still way too much for her. That was a huge amount of money that would take her more than a lifetime to earn, and Dario could just wave his hand and give her a gift that was worth a lifetime of earnings? This is really... She couldn't even finish her thought. Jade had originally believed that no matter how expensive the items were, they would not be ridiculously expensive. She had imagined he might have spent a few $1,000s on her, but never a few million. So, Mr. Foster, this phone plus this ring really cost $8 million. Are you sure? Jade carefully took off the ring and held it in her hand, together with the cell phone. She immediately became nervous, afraid that the diamonds would fall off. and suddenly the phone and the ring seemed very heavy, so heavy that she didn't think she could go on holding them. "You can continue to treat that phone as if it cost a few $100s, and the ring as if it was worth a few thousand," he said, his usually cold eyes full of tenderness and love. Episode 199. I love you, Dario. Jade was speechless when she heard how much Dario had paid for her phone and her diamond ring. Now that she knew their true value, how could she wear the ring and use the phone on a daily basis and pretend they were normal objects? She felt a heavy weight pressing down on her chest, and it took her a while to recover. She lowered her eyes and glanced at the man sitting beside her. Suddenly, she felt that he was very far removed from her. "Mr. Foster," she said, "how many secrets are you keeping from me? How powerful are you?" Of course, she was referring to how rich he may be. Dario suddenly stopped the car and gently planted a kiss in between her eyebrows. Then he moved his mouth onto her delicate lips and said in a low voice to his wife, "Don't you know how powerful I am? You can find out again tonight." The atmosphere inside the vehicle became charged. If he had told her something like that at any other time, Jade would have gone red in the face, punched him in the chest, and sent him packing. But now, she wasn't in the mood to joke. Instead, she said to him seriously, "Mr. Foster, you must be very wealthy, much wealthier than I ever imagined." The more she spoke, the more insecure she became. She started calculating in her mind, thinking of the house, her grandmother's hospitalization fees, and the $8 million that he had just mentioned. If she added it all up, she decided his net worth must be unimaginable. He was probably worth many millions. Then there was also the villa that he had taken her to. She was thinking that he must also have lied to her on that occasion when he said that the villa belonged to his sister. But if he has such a big villa, why is he still willing to stay in an apartment with me? She wondered. Wouldn't it be easier for him to live in a villa with servants? If he lived there, he wouldn't have to wash my clothes and cook for me. She really couldn't understand what drove him to do the things he did. Suddenly, she felt that the differences between them were insurmountable. Up to that moment, although she had felt that they were too unequal, she had been unaware of how rich he was. Now that she was starting to realize the extent of his wealth, she began to feel that she would never be able to catch up with him. She felt she wasn't worthy of Dario. A feeling of helplessness descended upon her, and Dario noticed the change in her mood. He leaned over to her and said in a low voice, "No matter how much money I have, you are my wife, and I am your husband. Money means nothing to me. You are what I value most in this world. In this life, I'm only going to be married to you. So you must not think that there's any difference between us. We are husband and wife. We are equals. I want you to understand that." Jade was stunned by his words. This was the first time he had ever said anything like that to her. Each word had been so full of tenderness. He was acting so unlike his usual quiet and arrogant self. Suddenly, she could see herself through his eyes, and happiness flooded her heart. Dario lately seemed to be developing the ability to speak the language of love. He was becoming more and more pleasing to her. She couldn't believe that her husband was becoming such a perfect man. She was at a loss for words. Everything seemed like a dream. She pursed her lips, and finally, with some embarrassment, she asked him, "Mr. Foster, is what you said true, that you will only ever be married to me?" Jade looked at him nervously. In principle, marriage was a lifetime commitment, but still, she'd been so scared that he would want to leave her. "What, wasn't I clear enough? Do you want me to say it again?" he whispered in her ear. Jade was shocked and she blushed. She finally realized what was going on and asked him, "Mr. Foster, have you finally fallen in love with me? You keep pretending to be so cold." Dario didn't answer, and he couldn't help but snicker as he looked at her with a hint of lust in his eyes. Then he moved closer to her. "What have you been calling me tonight? How many times do you need to keep calling me that?" "What?" "Tell me, how many times do you want to make love tonight?" asked Dario. Jade looked at him speechlessly. She had just formed such a good impression of him, but now she was completely taken aback by his words. But she also knew that he was only reminding her not to keep calling him Mr. Foster. But after all, that was how she addressed him when she had first met him, and it was what she had gotten used to. Habits were difficult things to break. She got her emotions under control, took a deep breath, and looked into his eyes. For the first time, what she said came from the bottom of her heart. This time,
She didn't need to pronounce his name under coercion. Dario. That one simple word pierced Dario's heart with joy. Her clear, crisp voice traveled deep into his bones. It was so sweet to hear. Do you prefer it like that? Jade looked at him shyly and noticed the smile in his eyes. Say it again. Dario, Dario, Dario. I love you. When she said those last 3 words, Dario, who was always so calm, felt his heart skip a beat. At that moment, she looked exceptionally alluring to him. Her long eyelashes, clear, gentle eyes, and tender lips made his mouth feel dry. Oh, I'm so embarrassed, Jade said, covering her face with her hands as if she had said something awkward. This was also the first time she had dared tell him so boldly that she loved him. Dario reached out his hand and gently stroked her delicate face. Then he carefully lifted her chin and kissed her on the lips. After calling him Dario, Jade immediately felt the gap between them narrow. The man she had slowly fallen in love with was right there beside her. She could sense his heartbeat, the warmth of his body, everything about him. There were no differences between the two of them. He was the same as her. But I hope you still call me Mr. Foster sometimes. That way we can have lots of sex and a happy life. Dario's face broke into a wicked smile. He even dared to touch her thigh. Episode 200. A Wolf at the Table. Dario's kiss had been so passionate that Jade felt lightheaded when she came up for air. When she realized what he was driving at, she pushed his hand away from her thigh and sat up straight while straightening out her clothes. Start the car, let's go home, she urged him. Dario licked her ear and suddenly said something that shocked her. Do you want to test the car out and make it shake? Although she didn't know exactly what he meant, coming from him, she could imagine what he was getting at. She turned crimson red, reached out her hand, and slapped him hard across the chest. How on earth could he say such a thing? She thought. What on earth are you thinking? Hurry up and drive home, she demanded. He was embarrassing her to death. She realized then how thick-skinned she would have to become whenever she was with Dario, or she wouldn't be able to handle him. When they got home, Jade saw that the dining table had been set and was covered with food, her favorite dishes. Dario, don't tell me you haven't eaten yet, she said. Was he waiting for me? She wondered. Go take a bath. I'll heat it all up. Before she could even answer, he took off his jacket and headed toward the kitchen. Jade felt joy bubble up inside her. She looked at the feast displayed in front of her and was at a loss for words. She started carrying the serving dishes into the kitchen to help, but Dario chased her out. With nothing else to do, she went for her bath. She had just finished bathing and changing into her pajamas when a delicious aroma wafted through the air. Since she was starving, she rushed out of the bedroom. Dinner was heated and ready. She had put on a short pair of sexy magenta pink pajamas with a deep V-neck that Dario had bought her and that she was slowly getting used to wearing without shame. They were made of translucent material and only reached her upper thigh. Jade sat down at the table across from Dario, who wasn't eating but was busy admiring her graceful body. He found her so provocative that his temperature began to rise and his heart started pounding. His breathing became uneven. Damn it, is she trying to seduce me? Or has she forgotten that I'm a man? He muttered in a voice too low for her to hear. Dario, what did you just say? Jade asked him in between mouthfuls, blinking as she spoke. Nothing. If you're hungry, hurry up and eat. When she'd been in the hospital fretting about her mother, food had been the last thing on her mind. But it had been so many hours since she'd last eaten that she was now devouring her dinner and didn't notice the pair of wolf-like eyes boring into her. Dario, whose only wish at that moment was to swallow her whole, held himself in check as he waited for her to finish. He then poured a glass of water for Jade to rinse her mouth and took his napkin to wipe the drops from the corners of her lips. I can wipe my own mouth, she said irritably. Then her eyes fell on his plate, which was mostly untouched. Why haven't you finished yet? Aren't you hungry? Jade rubbed her stomach, and her eyes went wide looking at his unfinished food. She felt that she could still eat another plateful. He doesn't want it, and it wouldn't be right to let it go to waste, she thought. Dario could see what she was thinking. Do you want more? He asked. Jade looked at him shyly. I haven't eaten anything since lunchtime, and I'm still a little hungry. But don't tell me you think I eat too much.
Then come over here beside me and start all over again.
Okay, I will. Jade was so focused on the delicious food that she didn't notice that Dario's breathing had become heavier. His voice had turned low, and there was a tinge of impatience in his tone. She grabbed her knife and fork and ran around to the other side of the table. Just as she was about to reach out and take his plate, Dario suddenly pulled her over and sat her on his lap. Hey, Dario, what are you doing? She asked, shocked.
I'm going to eat you,
he said, and immediately took her head in his hands and kissed her ferociously. His breathing became even heavier. Jade, who hadn't been expecting his reaction, almost slipped off his legs onto the floor, but Dario put his hand around her slender waist and held her in place. Pressing on the back of her head with his other hand, he deepened the kiss. Through her pajamas, Jade could feel the heat rising from his body. She started noticing her own body getting hotter, and her skin turned a deeper pink. When she was about to suffocate from the kiss, she shyly pushed him away and broke free. Dario, don't be like this. The meal isn't over yet. As she was getting up from his lap, she accidentally brushed between his legs with her knuckles. Her heart skipped a beat when she realized that she had just played with fire. Dario couldn't contain himself anymore and tried to push her onto the table. He didn't know why he lost so much control in front of Jade when he was usually so self-controlled. Jade was so scared that she became paralyzed. She sat stiffly on his lap and didn't dare look directly into his eyes, which were burning with desire.